gotten your social media set up and you're in Slack and you've started to get to know some of the people in this class there and introduced yourself a little bit, the next step, now that you've done those things, and the other thing that hopefully you've done is gotten a domain of one's own, following the guide that I linked to from week 1. So the next big step is to install WordPress at your new domain. So when you install WordPress, you're gonna have to make a choice about where you want it to go. Each of you, if you're new to domain of one's own, have a URL now that you own, that's your own. So for example, my URL, my personal URL is marthaburtis.net. And when you install WordPress, you have to kind of decide where you want to put it. You can put it at what we call the root of your domain. So you could install it, I could install WordPress, say at marthaburtis.net, which means if somebody typed that URL into their browser, they would see that WordPress install. But I can also create what's called a subdomain. You've seen these before, you might not know what that's called. It's kind of like a prefix to a URL. So I could, for example, set up a subdomain called ds106.marthaburtis.net or theend106.marthaburtis.net or apocalypse.marthaburtis.net. You get the point. And then I could put WordPress in that location if that was something that I wanted to do. Or you can set up what's called a subdirectory where I would do marthaburtis.net/apocalypse or /ds106. Doesn't really matter where you put it. I don't care. That's up to you. It's your domain. You can kind of decide, but you do need to decide that before you go in to install WordPress. And if you're going to set up a subdomain, that's an additional step you have to do first. There's links to guides in the week 1 announcement that explains all of this, so I recommend that you check those out. But so you're going to install WordPress, you're going to pick a location, put it there, and then you just need to kind of explore WordPress a little if you're not familiar with it. WordPress is what's called a content management system. It's used a lot for blogging, which is really what we're going to use it for at this class, where you'll be putting up kind of regular posts of the work that you're doing and your thoughts for the class. Writing a post is really simple. You give it a title and you put some content in it, and you'll learn how to do media in there as well, add video, add images. I do recommend as you write posts that you use what are called categories to kind of organize your posts a little bit for your own use. Think about how you'd like to organize your site using categories. For example, every week you're going to be writing what we call the weekly post. You could put it in a category called weekly posts, which means if you wanted to, you could have a link on your site where somebody could just see all your weekly posts. But that's really up to you, how you want to do that organization. You are going to have to use something called tags on some posts. They're for special media assignment posts that you'll be doing for the class, and there's instructions for that. There's instructions for that as well as all kinds of advice about blogging on a guide on this website. I think it's called Guide for Blogging or Guide for Best Practices for Blogging. That's also linked to from this page. I really, really recommend that you review it. I've put in there kind of the basics of like what you should always do when you're writing a blog post, as well as really specific examples of what you need to think about for posts that you're writing for media assignments, posts that are more reflections that you might be doing on a movie that we watch, and then how you write up your weekly posts. So check out that guide, refer to it often, keep checking back and make sure you're kind of keeping an eye on those best practices. I think you'll find them really useful. Once again, if you get stuck with WordPress, have trouble installing it, aren't really sure what to do once it is installed, come to the Digital Knowledge Center. The DKC is your friend, so dkc.umw.edu, and also make use of Slack and Twitter as a place to ask questions. There's lots of people on Twitter that follow the DS106 hashtag, and in Slack we have that group where you can just talk to Mary Washington students. Everybody's going through this at the same time. Lots of you will have the same questions, so make use of each other. It's not cheating to ask for help. So that's kind of a really quick summary and introduction to WordPress and blogging. Go ahead and get it installed, and I will see you further down the page for one more video where we'll just kind of summarize the week and talk a little bit about this apocalypse thing that we're going to be dealing with.